Thanks again for being here. Won't keep you very long. There's three main reasons that I asked you to be here. Number one is to communicate some changes that we've made in our school transportation schedule during inclement weather. Just to provide some information about how we come to the decision of having school or canceling school or some sort of delay, and then have some general bus transportation information to share with you. The number one reason for asking for this meeting is to share with you some changes that we've made regarding our no buses on Icy Roads schedule. For the past, as long as I can remember, we've had a situation where we've been unable to run buses on all the roads. We've called up perhaps a 2-hour delay and said no buses on Icy Roads. Well, parents are left. It's been left up to the parents to decide whether or not to put their child out there or not. We've come up with a list of roads in the 4 main communities in the Franklin area. These roads are most commonly icy during the winter, and many times we're unable to run buses on these roads, so we're just providing this information to parents. We'll have this information on the Macon County Schools website, as well as the schools that will be impacted by these changes. For instance, we've got broken up by the 4 communities: South Macon, Iowa Valley, East Franklin, and Cartuga J. Mountain View Middle School and Franklin High School will also be impacted by these changes in the schedule. It's also important to point out that bus drivers may need to make changes that morning. For instance, they may get out there and decide that they can't run an additional road. If that happens, they'll call the school, and then we'll get that information to parents through the website and through a call out or something like that. Any questions about those changes? And then next thing I'd like to do is just kind of go over what we have to, some of the process that we go through in making a decision to change the schedule during inclement weather. And a lot of times it'll depend on when the weather hits. Yesterday we were fortunate that it was pretty well known that we weren't going to have school early on yesterday. We did give it some time to melt and that sort of thing, but it just wasn't, melting didn't occur to the extent that we were able to have school today, or even with the delay. We're waiting again today to see what tomorrow will bring, but it's not looking good that we'll run a regular schedule at least. As I said, yesterday was the best case scenario for us, in that we have some warning. And it's our goal to provide as accurate information as we can as soon as possible for parents. We have to make a decision by at least 5:15 in the morning for our bus drivers. The first bus will leave at about 5:30. Is that right, Randy?
Yes, usually about 5:30.
So we have to make that call by about 5:15, so bus drivers will know, and then we can get the parents notified. One of the things that we're concerned with is having students standing out there at a bus stop and not know that the change has been made in the school schedule. Once the buses hit the road at 5:30, they'll be on the road until about 7:30 to 7:45. Is that right? Last bus comes in about 7:45?
Yes.
So
we'll say EC buses.
They'll be on the roads for up to 2.5 hours a day. In the morning and in the afternoon. 2.5 hours in the morning, 2.5 hours.
Yes.
So, what kind of things do we do to monitor the situation? We look at several weather forecasts, local TV, radio, Weather Channel, the National Weather Service website, and all of those things. And what we run into is a lot of times we'll have conflicting forecasts, and have to try to make a call based on that. I watched Channel 13 last week, and they had 4 or 5 models that they were looking at. None of them, or at times, none of them were in agreement. So it makes it pretty challenging for us. If snow is predicted, though, and there's no snow on the ground, we're probably not going to have school if snow is forecast, especially during the time the buses will be on the road. A lot of times, though, it'll start snowing somewhere between 5:30 and 8 o'clock in the morning, and it may not that snow may not be predicted. We'll have to make a decision then as to whether or not to keep buses on the route or to turn them around. And I think that a lot of times we get criticized because we have buses on the roads when it's actually snowing. And part of the reason for that is because we've got kids out there at bus stops. And if the parents already gone to work, if the weather's not been forecast, the parents may have left for work, and the child has no way of knowing that we may be making a change in the school schedule. So if it starts snowing when the buses are on the road, we're going to do all we can to make sure that we complete that route safely. We may not always be able to do that. We may have to turn the buses around mid-route. And there's a lot of things that go into that decision. What's the weather forecast? Are they calling for snow at all? I think Friday we knew that snow was forecast. Unfortunately, we didn't have school, but we knew that snow was forecast. But it was all the models that I was looking at. It was supposed to come in around 4 or 5 o'clock, and it actually started snowing pretty hard here about 1:30 or 2 o'clock. So that may happen in the mornings as well when we have buses on the roads. The main thing about that, though, is if it does start snowing in the morning, just because that bus is running does not mean that parents must put their child on that bus or that they must send their child to school. If a parent is concerned about whether or not they should, if it's safe to travel, keep the child at home. Don't put them on the bus. Don't bring them into school. We may be in a situation here where we're trying to get kids off the bus stop safely to school. So I ask parents to keep that in mind. Always rely on their own judgment about whether or not to put the child on the bus or to put their vehicle on the road. Once we do have inclement weather on the ground, whether it's snow or what we had this morning, with icing conditions and that sort of thing, black ice, if we're aware of it, school personnel will go out and check the roads. Randy was out checking roads yesterday. And we have different areas throughout Franklin that different folks will check and then report back to me and Mr. Gibbs, and we'll make a decision as to whether or not to have school or to make a change in the schedule. One of the things I want people to understand too, though, is that if the weather forecast is calling for freezing rain or for ice, then we're going to pay very close attention to that. If the forecast is calling for ice, we're not going to put our employees at risk, or certainly not the students at risk. So we'll be more cautious if they're calling for ice. Now, the thing about ice, though, is it's very tricky. A lot of times they'll forecast ice and it won't show up, but sometimes that makes me look bad, or the school system look bad, because we may call school off because of the forecast for ice. I'm okay with that. Just want parents to understand that if the forecast is calling for ice, there's a whole lot less chance that we'll have school. We do communicate with emergency dispatch, Macon County Department of Transportation, local law enforcement. All these folks help us make a determination as to whether or not to change the schedule or to cancel school. If it starts snowing while school is in session, I know that last year we had a couple situations where, much like Friday, snow was forecast to come in about the time that kids would, or arrived home after school, but it actually started snowing about noon or 11 o'clock. We did not dismiss school at that time. We waited until the snow passed. I think we warmed up a little bit. We were able to put the buses on the road safely at 3 o'clock. Some parents were pretty critical of the decision not to dismiss school when it started snowing, which would have put buses on the roads at a very unsafe time. So once school is in session, a lot of times the safest place is for them to be in school, the students to be in school. So we'll hold them, especially if the snow's coming in and it's not been forecast. A lot of times it'll come in, or sometimes it'll come in. It's not been forecast, it'll come in heavier and sooner, like it did last year and on Friday. Other things that we consider too is the ground temperatures. For instance, with as cold temperatures we had Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, it's a pretty good chance that we're going to see some ice in the morning. So we'll be careful with that. On the other hand, the ground may be warm at times, and just because we have winter weather, we may not dismiss school. We may not change the schedule. So a lot of things go into the decision of changing the school schedule. Anything you want to add? Any questions?
Number one, do you know how many kids in the district utilize school buses? How many kids in that?
On any given day, we've got around 2,200 students on the buses, and that information is in here. So,
For locally, I don't know if you know the second sheet. If you have how many? Never mind. That's my next question. And then third, I don't know if it was last year or the year before, but I know in the past sometimes you've had to cancel school strictly because of the temperatures and kids being, or not school, but the buses. So can you talk a little bit about how that decision is made based on having kids sent to the bus stop when it's negative? Even if there's no snow or no ice, but still the dangers of just being out there in that cold.
Yeah, it's twofold. I mean, we obviously concerned about student safety. If the temperatures or wind chills are going to be below zero or close to zero, so we'll make a determination based on that. The other issue, Randy, if you want to speak to this, is got to do with diesel fuel gelling at certain temperatures. And I know Randy was out cranking buses yesterday just in case we were going to have school to make sure that they would start. That's another, in cold weather like that, we may have problems with the buses starting, and we'll have kids standing at a bus stop for a bus that may not be able to crank that one. So that's something that we take into consideration.
Please just start gelling, Randy.
Probably about 15 degrees. I guess about 15 or colder.
And that generally what happens is if it's been over like a 2-day period of sub-zero weather in the past, then he has to go out and physically crank these buses before the drivers get there. And so that puts us into a 2-hour delay just getting 54 buses cranked.
How many buses?
52.
52.
15?
52.
52.
Yes.
All right.
That's Franklin, Nantahala, and Highlands. 52 buses. Those buses run right about 3,000 miles per day. So that's a lot of roads for the DOT to have cleared, and it's a lot of opportunities for icing conditions and that sort of thing. And a lot of times we'll be criticized because the roads will be clear in Franklin, but Rose Creek or Walnut Creek or Poplar Cove or Allison Watch or something like that will be iced over completely. So ask folks to take that into consideration as well. It may be clear when you look at your window, but it may be bad in other areas. And hopefully, because we're able to have these lists out there, we may be able to have school but not run buses in all the roads in Iowa Valley.
The Nantahala and Franklin districts are pretty good about posting stuff when they're not going to have school. What about Highlands? Is there some way we can get on a list or
Posting How do you mean
Like, we get an email for the Franklin area districts from the central office, but Nantahala and Highlands doesn't send that out to us. I guess because they have like a different strategy for their parents. But could that be something that could be related to the central office to be related to us, so we can help get that out too?
We can do that.
Sometimes I find it on Facebook whenever they post it on their Facebook page, but sometimes it's not always highlighted because it doesn't pop up.
Most
so.
of the time it's on the Highlands Police Department page.
The Highlands Police Department posts it more often, but if the Highlands, when they make that decision, if they could send that to you guys, so you guys can also relay that to us like you do the Franklin area, that just help us get it out quicker. Because I didn't see the Highlands
didn't see
Nantahala
that.
until hours after it was posted. And I know that those families know, but I know and there's some families that aren't on Facebook and don't get it, and might not get the call or have missed it or something. But that could just help us help you guys.
We should be able to do that.
So just wanted to make sure that I'm understanding this. Say, for instance, for South Macon, these are the roads that they might not run to these roads even if the school is open?
Yeah, if we call an example would be tomorrow. We're looking at possibly having a 2-hour delay tomorrow, if we're able to have school at all. That determination will be made later today. And it may be that tomorrow we're able to have school, but not run buses on all these roads.
Okay.
So if it's a no buses on Icy Roads, these are the Icy Roads.
Yes.
It will run on other roads, but these are the Icy Roads they will not run on.
Yeah, and what we'll do when we make the call out, we'll say that buses will not run on Icy Roads, and then we'll post we'll say when we do the parent link, the telephone call, buses won't run on Icy Roads in Iowa Valley, because most of the time it'll be, or many times it will be limited to one area in the Franklin area, like Cowee or Cartooga, and sometimes even South Macon will get it, and the rest of the county won't. So we'll make that determination, or the delineation on our phone call, and then folks can refer to the website to see exactly which roads will be affected. Now, and as I said earlier, the bus driver may make a change while they're on the route, because it's unpredictable.
Bus drivers are told that if they're going up a road and suddenly road conditions become questionable, then when in doubt, turn around and get out of there. Don't proceed forward.
It's their discretion because they're on the road, they're looking at it.
And these are the roads that are most commonly affected by ice and conditions. In the past, when we said we may have school, but buses won't run on icy roads, these are most commonly the roads that are affected in those communities. So we're just trying to communicate this to parents.
And this list has been generated by the bus drivers on their particular routes.
And conversations with principals as well.
Right.
They know the roads that are most commonly affected. That doesn't mean that, and that's one thing about living in the mountains, it's unpredictable which roads will be affected.
I know today's the first snow day that you have built into the second semester. How many do you have built in for the second semester?
I'd have to look back at the calendar, but right off the top of my head, we have.
The flexibility let there be plenty, so this is only the first. So it should
Well, and the way that we look at it is hours, right?
Right.
1,071 hours of instruction built into the calendar. State law requires 1,025. As long as we stay above that minimum 1,025, we should be fine. I do think that we delineated on this calendar, though, that the first 3 or 4 days will be taken up by the work days that we built in the calendar. So in other words, we'll make up this day on looking at those work days on the school calendar. And then the remainder of those, as long as we stay above 1,025, we won't make those up.
So about these roads again, if I'm a parent, I live on Middle Creek Road and, the icy road sort of conditions are in effect, what I was hearing, and tell me if this is right, that I should hear about that before I were to say leave for work in the morning.
Yes. We'll try to make that call as soon as possible, by at least 5:15, so the bus drivers know. And if a parent decides that they want to bring their child on into school, they can. If they want to drive down to the intersection of Middle Creek Road and Cassidy Road and catch the bus there, or we're at a safe location, they can still do that as well.
Are those
with the bus driver.
Are those locations like commonly known throughout the area of where they
For
can?
the parents, it is. I remember that when I was a kid.
Yeah.
They couldn't run at Parker Street in Jackson County, that'd be the problem with the road, so.
Okay.
And parents, a lot of parents have a good relationship with the bus drivers. They'll give them a call and find a suitable location and get on the bus.
And of the information that you've been presenting, what of this is actually like different, or is this more of just clarification?
Well, the difference is we've
Never done
never,
this before.
Oh, okay.
we've never said which roads won't be ran.
They used to just say, no buses on icy roads, and then you just guessed if your road was an icy road.
But if you live in your child in the South Macon district, you can go to the website when you hear the announcement, and you can, there the list will be, and you say, oh, I live on Middle Creek Road, and that means that they're not going to run up here if they say no buses on icy
We had to
roads.
do this when I was growing up, my road was always no buses on icy road. It was all about the mountain.
And that's all good for people who live in a certain spot year after year after year.
Right,
If you've got a move-in
true.
who doesn't know, I've got a kid, I don't know if it's a nice road, now they can go to the website, and I live on this road, then I know I'm a new person in this community. This year, I know that the bus isn't gonna come up.
And we're assuming everybody has internet service, which we know that's not possible, but the majority will.
But also, you'll have this information, it'll be in the front of the press, the Macon media, and on the website, so, and if we call a school with no buses on icy roads in South Macon School District, buses will know that parents will know that buses won't run these roads, and they'll have that information beforehand.
Okay.
The other issue too, though, is that the way it was before, it put a lot of pressure on the school bus driver, because they had to make a determination, well, that road's too icy for me to drive on, so I'm not going to drive that road. And they may get halfway up the road and have to turn around.
And list of the buses on the websites for each of the schools, it will be in a place where you can see it from the main page and click into it so we can link to
It'll
it?
be on Macon County Schools' website.
Okay.
And then the schools will also be able to pick it up as well, but just for
Convenience.
it'll be that one location that they go to.
So as far as designations for the school schedule, there's the all classes are canceled. There's a 2-hour delay. Is this sort of like a third tier here, or does this usually go hand in hand with other things?
This is something that we may have to do. For instance, we might do that tomorrow.
And we could use that in conjunction with the regular schedule, and we could use that in conjunction with the delayed start.
A 2-hour or 3-hour delay. We could have school at a regular time, just not run buses on icy roads.
No buses on icy roads is just an additional line that is used, say if Channel 13, when they puts it in, we're on a 2-hour delay, but then there's another code that also says no icy roads, isn't it?
Correct.
So, you understand? So this is just
More descriptive.
This is more descriptive. It clarifies what no icy roads means.
Right now, March the 10th and February the 20th are designated snow makeup days, so we'll have to make a determination as to which one of those days we'll hold school on. I'll talk to principals and decide which one would be the best and let you know. It'll be one of those 2 days. And then after we use those 2 days up, as long as we stay above 1,025 instructional hours, we won't be able to make them up. Any other questions? There's also some information about just general school bus transportation facts that I thought you might find useful. And it also encourages parents to contact their bus driver, Mr. Gibbs, and for any information that they might need.
I'm just curious about more kind of an open-ended thing. Considering all the different factors that go into it, what it actually looks like when you come together to make these decisions, because you were already describing how difficult it can be when models are contradicting each other and things like that. It seems really hard to have a specific, line in the sand of whether you do or you don't.
Yeah, there is a lot that goes into it. Like I said, some of it may depend on what the ground temperatures have been for the last 3 or 4 days. If we've had warm weather and they're calling for snow, we may be a little bit more likely to wait until 5:15 before we make a call. If the ground's been frozen and any participation that follows is going to stick and cause icing conditions, we may be a little bit more quick to make a call as to whether or not we'll have school or not. So there's a lot that goes into it. We don't like to act on the forecast a whole lot because it's unpredictable. And we need 2 hours at least to make a call. So if 5:15 rolls around and they're calling for snow to begin at 6:30, that puts us in a very tough spot. We may look foolish at 8 o'clock, and then we may look like a genius at 8 o'clock. We just want folks to understand that we're not making a call on what the current conditions are. We're making a call on what's going to happen 3 and 4 hours from now. For instance, if it starts snowing at 11 o'clock while school's in session, we've got to decide what we want the buses to be, what conditions we want the buses to be under when they're on the road. That could be 3 o'clock, could be 4 o'clock, could be 5 o'clock.
Also have to remember that bus drivers are not sitting there just waiting. They've got lives, they've got grandkids, they've got jobs, they live in all different parts of the county, so we have to
It may take us 30 minutes to an hour to get them here so that we can get the buses rolling.
Just to make sure I got them all, what are all of the ways a parent can find out about whether or not their school's canceled? So you have the website, it's always posted on your Facebook, you do an email. Is there an email list or is that just a medium?
That's just media and anyone that's on parent.
Correct.
Any parent email that might be in parent, like when we do the phone call out.
Parent link, you do a phone call.
They also get a text, don't they?
They can get a text, they can get an email, and they can get the call.
Okay. That's through parent link, right?
Yes.
Okay. And if they're not signed up for parent link for some reason, I think they do that for their student enroll, but if they're not, is it on the website how to sign up?
The same.
If they're not signed up for parent link for whatever reason, is it
that's done through the data managers at the school.
Okay.
If there's a wrong number or something, they need to call the school and talk to the data manager. I think all the data managers are managing parent link
Okay.
information on parents.
And then you put it on WLOS, and then local media like we always have it. Is there any other thing I'm not thinking of, how they might find out about it?
I call Renee and then she does all that.
Okay, if you have Renee Burt's phone number, call her. Okay, got it.
But she
Okay.
she contacts the radio, you guys, Channel 13, and then she also does parent link.
But the first thing that, our first call that we'll make will be to the bus drivers, and then the principals, then the cafeteria managers, because, if we're not going to have school, we don't want them to start preparing food for breakfast. So we've got to get those. That'd be the first wave of calls. Will be those 3 groups of people, and then we notify parents, media, and everybody
Y'all
else.
have plans for if something were to suddenly develop to where you couldn't predict it and you had to keep the students overnight or something like that, or until parents could come get them?
You mean shelter in place?
Shelter in place, yeah.
We have some provisions, but we have to rely on
Parents come get them.
parents to come get them, and also emergency services here in town. I mean, they'd have to provide us with water and food and that sort of thing, and maybe extra blankets, those kind of things. But we don't have anything stockpiled.
I think in my,
That happened to me when I was in school.
I started to say, Bobby, it happened to you because I remember it, and it was it was getting late afternoon time. We got everybody home. Some of the last people we got home that day was around 6 or 6:30 in the afternoons, and it was getting dark.
Yeah.
I was in the middle school then as a teacher.
I know it's happened in North Carolina. It happened a couple of years ago in Wake County. They had I think they actually put buses on the road and had them turn around and come back to school. they had kids spend the night, absolutely.
I think I remember that. That wasn't that long ago.
No, it wasn't, it was,
Yeah.
since I've been superintendent, I
It's
remember
only
the
been, it's been a
superintendent
couple
talking
years,
about
yes,
that.
I've been a newspaper, I remember that.
In addition to the ways that you named, Brittany, I also notify the radio station. That's one of the first ones I notify. I email you guys, which is the huge media list, but you all can see that. I notify WHLC in Highlands. I notify WCQS in Asheville, WRGC in Silva, WWNC in Asheville, Sky 104 in Raven County, News 13, WSPA, WYFF, and then Fox Carolina. So keep in mind, that takes me a good bit of time to get all those out. In addition to running the parent link phone call, which takes about 20 minutes to cycle through to get distributed. So the minute Dr. Baldwin calls me, everybody might not know within 5 or even 10 minutes.
Right.
Because this is my list.
Right.
But your primary concern is going to be notifying bus drivers,
Correct.
principals, cafeteria managers,
Correct.
and parents.
Correct.
Kind of in that way.
Correct. I record the parent link phone call ASAP the minute that Dr. Baldwin notifies me. Once I get it prompted to go out, then I start all the other notifications.
I think that's a good point. It takes a while for that to cycle through.
Yes, sir, it does.
So if let's say that we have inclement weather come in at 6 o'clock in the morning, we have to, it'll take us a while to notify all of our personnel, and then to get the call out to parents. It takes some time.
And then, too, sometimes we may decide that, Dr. Baldwin may decide that we're going to do a 2-hour delay. And then we call the 2-hour delay. And then in an hour, we're canceling school. So then I have to go through all these notifications again.
Also,
So therefore, it takes a little bit of time to get all those calls out there.
Also, that database of Connect Ed call-outs, it goes to MPP because they got.
I directly notify Chuck Sutton.
Okay, you do
As
that?
well as Tremont, because they usually sing to
Southwestern
us.
Community College also gets it.
I don't do them
Yeah,
directly.
it's actually in the database. They get a phone call.
My
Southwestern.
kid's school's based on the school system, so if y'all could have school tomorrow, that'd be great.
Renee,
Yes, sir.
when you were talking about the parent link phone call cycling through, are you talking about once you record it, it takes a good while for it to actually reach all of the parents in the county?
I may get it, say, at 9 o'clock. Tracy may not get it until 9:15.
And people complain about it, and my
And
son
so
even do
And
anything about it.
Facebook
They're
blows
like,
up about it.
my aunt's already got it, why haven't I gotten it?
And so
Yes,
you
it's
need
not
to-
everyone at one
My
time.
personal cell phone blows up about it.
So you have to do that just as soon as you can,
The
and then,
minute I get the word from Dr. Baldwin,
See,
I start my rotation.
it goes out to the, I forget what the company's name that it does.
Apparently.
Apparently, and so they got all these trunk lines coming back. And
Yes.
so you got 4,400 students. So, you're going to be making a bunch of phone calls. Plus you got 600 staff that's in there, over 600 people on staff that you got to call out. So the list it's 5,000 some phone calls are going to be made. And it takes about sometimes 30 to 45 minutes to call it.
The code red
Yes,
messages, the
yes.
first number.
And if parents could understand to make sure that all their contact information is updated with the data managers like Mr. Gibbs spoke about. If they want to get an email from me, they need to make sure they provide an email address to the data managers. If they want to get a text from me, they need to make sure they provide that information to the data managers.
Yeah.
The amount of feedback I get back for undeliverable
Right.
is huge.
So-
And then I might get a phone call saying, I didn't get the call. Well,
Because
have
it
you
leaves a
updated?
message too, right?
Pardon me?
It'll leave a message.
Yes,
Someone
yes,
answer.
absolutely.
If they have, if it's a landline and they have a voicemail,
Right.
leave a message.
if I were to put something at the end of an article or something, like kind of advice or instructions to parents about making sure your information is up to date, would it be check with your local school or?
Data managers.
Okay.
Data manager at your child's school.
What goes into determining, or is it because it's so optional for a teacher workday? Like, how is that determined? Because you have to have so many teacher workdays, right?
Teachers are on contract for 215 days. And, we'll generally have, if we have a cancel school, it'll be an optional teacher workday. And that is exactly what it means, it's optional. Some beginning teachers don't have as many annual leave days, and they feel like they have to be there, but they really don't. If we call an optional workday, they need to communicate with the principal, and work out a time that they can make that time up if they need to.
Okay.
There's a lot of questions about optional work days, and we put that option in there for folks because they may be able to travel to school, and if they feel safe and comfortable doing that, then they're welcome to come to school. If we cancel school though, then that means I'm going to have to put in another work day somewhere in that calendar so that they get that 215 days in. Teachers are going to have to work for 215 days.
That's not a Macon
regardless.
County, that's a state.
That's state, yeah, they're under, across the state, they're under contract for 215 days. So, that's why we do it, make it optional. It is exactly that, it's optional. And that doesn't fall in that instructional
Right.
time or.
Right. I should know a lot of questions that we get is if it's an optional teacher work day, why can't my kids be there? The teacher's not there, kind of thing. So if
Yeah.
teachers are there, why can't I send my kid? But I know it's different requirements.
Yeah. They have to be there for 215 days, and, we make it optional because it may be unsafe for a number of teachers when some that live close to school can make it very safely.
250 of them may opt to take annual leave and not come to work. So the parent needs to understand that.
Right.
Teachers may have the option to use their annual leave day as opposed to coming into work.
And we've got teachers that live in Swain County, Jackson
Right.
County, all over, so it's a little bit
People
different.
that live in Franklin and work in Allen kind of thing. So.
And if I can say one more time about that icing conditions, a lot of times we'll find out this icing, we have black ice all over the county, we may find that out at 5:30 when the buses are already on the roads. And a situation like that, just ask parents to understand that sometimes weather in the mountains is unpredictable.
When those conditions happen, I'll say this, Randy is really good. He himself will go out, he'll send out mechanics. They'll start fanning out across the county ahead, if we get reports to know, is it possible to get buses back home? He'll be ahead of the buses trying to figure out, can we get to these areas? And they'll be contacting back to Dr. Baldwin when they find conditions that are unfavorable.
We got to weigh the conditions against having kids stand out there in cold weather, waiting on a bus stop, waiting on a bus that may not come.
We got to think about the drivers, the student drivers that actually drive to school too.
But, and that's why I go back. If a parent is concerned about the conditions, then I encourage them to use their own discretion about whether or not to put a child out there at a bus stop or whether to bring them into school.
Or put them behind the wheel drive.
Put them behind the wheel drive. We will work with folks when it comes to inclement weather, excusing absences and that sort of thing. They'll have to make up the work, we have to make up the day, make up the instruction, but those things can be made up, a life cannot be. Left anything else?
Oh,
Thanks
I got
again.
I'm good.
Thanks again for coming in.
Thanks.